washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items, amadi makal khudingmakki home appliances kidamak hoina waningai lekre. Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai Dalaiba, Mezo of Impalna, Ahongo Mamalda, item khudingmakki up to 50% discount offer Tizari. Wedding set unalongu matamdasu special oiba discount kayasu thamjari. Interest amatta yaudena 0% EMI loan gi kudong chabasu thamjari. Kudong chabasi mahan biraganu ngasi maklengsin biragu Mezo of Impal, Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai.
Hello and good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to ELITETV's Open Debate in English. I'm Utpala Longjam. Education is a business these days. Already, due to some unethical reasons, institutes have become commercial for profit making. There are a number of reasons as to why parents are willing to pay high fees to admit their children to popular educational institutions. As the government spends less on higher education, or for that matter in schools, due to lack of funds invested and infrastructure to cope up with the demands, has led to establishments of many private schools and institutions with aim to earn high. Now, education is an element to empower human race to sustain life. Change in educational system is quite evident from the traditional gurukuls to the present day classes in architecture, modern buildings, technologies and facilities, etc. Education is a business these days. Do you think so? However, one thing that pricks the conscience is the business factor involved in the field. Now, education has become a business with the business parties in this sector. In the present situation, not everybody can enter institutes or schools easily. For immediate effects, we have to pay donations, look at the fee structures and merits, as well as keep the government to check on the wrongs of the business minds in the educational sectors. Commercialization of business, as many of the private educational institutions or schools are making money. This shows how education has become a business apart from schools. Now let's talk about government schools. Government schools are affordable and they provide the minimum requirement infrastructure to meet the basic needs. Private schools do not accommodate the low economic group students. Right to education is the freedom for everyone, and government schools provide education to all the children without any partiality. However, most of them do not have proper infrastructure like classrooms, blackboards, drinking water, toilets, and sanitary facilities. The school environment is so suffocating that the students are dissuaded from attending the classes, which is why the dropout rate is very high in government schools. Now, this brings us to the topic for our open debate today: the present education system in Manipur. Let me introduce you to our panelists for tonight. Going from left to right, we have Mr. N. Satyajeet, Bureau Chief, UNI. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate. Next we have Mr. Sapam Shyamananda, Career Counselor, Lamjing, Meira, which is a career counseling platform where youth is provided so that they can achieve their goals in life. Welcome to ELITETV, Mr. Sapam. And last but not the least, we have Professor M.Nabakumar, Manipur University. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate, Mr. M.Nabakumar. So let's begin with the first round. I'll begin from left. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. I'll begin from the left side of my screen. That's Mr. N. Satyajeet. So, well, we know since we're talking about education here, can you tell us if the education system in Manipur is on the right track at the moment? Because it does seem like it's become a business due to globalization and privatization of institutes. So what are your thoughts on that?
I would begin by saying that the entire country is facing a crisis in education, because we spend just about 3% of our GDP in education sector in India, whereas in some country they are using around 5% to 6%.
Okay.
The real consensus is, if do not use 6% of our GDP, we will not be able to provide good education to our students and promote education in the entire country.
Okay.
Regarding Manipur, we have a problem of less good educational sector. For example, you must have seen that just after the declaration of the class 12 results, the queue in DM College, Imphal College, GP College was so long that the admission process had to be extended.
Oh.
Then there was the demand was so much that the students were not able to get admission in the colleges. Regarding the schools also, just after declaration of the 10th class, especially in the TG school, Iboton Sana, Johnstone and CC, the demand is so much. The demand is so much that the schools are not provide to education to the students. So it means that we need more good schools, we need more good educational institutes, and we need at least to have very good establishment in every district so that we can accommodate all the children and we can provide good education. I will keep this in the introductory remark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But what do you think about the existing schools and colleges? Do you think that they have become commercialized?
In India, there are about 1 million schools in India, and we have about 5 to 6 lakh private schools in India, and about 1 to 2 lakh added schools in India.
Okay.
And it means that if we do not give proper funding to the schools, government schools, then we will not be able to give good education to the students. This is the situation is also same in Manipur, because the private schools, they are so costly that most of the people in the low income group and the middle income group, they cannot afford to send their children to the private schools. So there's a huge gap between demand and so children they are suffering in Manipur because we are not able to have very good educational institutes except a few in Imphal and some in some district headquarters.
Okay.
So we need to construct more good schools and colleges. Otherwise, we'll not perform in the national level.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. I'll move on to Mr. Sapam Shyamananda. Well, Mr. Sapam, do you think the education system, as I was just asking Mr. and Satyajeet, do you think that the education has become a business hotspot, education sector?
So the answer definitely is yes. Now, when I say yes, I say it for a reason that the very fact that, as you mentioned at the beginning, Utpala, that there is right to education that the Indian Constitution has for everybody. But when that right to education is not delivered by the so-called national and the state government at different levels, right? The very failure of that education system, it promotes this private sector business to boom, right? So let's take an example at a very basic elementary level, okay? So the government has this very interesting scheme of this Anganwadi, right? So I remember when I was, less than, I think, a 3-year-old kid, I went to an Anganwadi which was just behind my house, right? And that Anganwadi was so popular that many of my friends, we met there every morning. In fact, we went there because milk was also given as part of the system, right? But today, when you look around, there are so many elementary schools that are coming up in every corner of our Laikai, right? Right. Or it's the same phenomenon across India or across many other countries where the state or the government, overall the system has failed, in providing those education. So net, to answer your question in short, and we'll probably, more questions we'll debate, but the education system has become a business. Now, if that business is done ethically or not is a question that we need to ask, right? Absolutely. Because the government has not been able to deliver what they are supposed to deliver, and that's when various businessmen or entrepreneurs, if I can use that word, has taken that as an advantage, or taken that upon themselves, and try to open those private schools and private colleges to fill the gap, right, overall. So that's my short answer, Bala, and I'll come back in the next round.
Right, so thank you for your input. I'll move on to Professor Nabakumar. Well, we just spoke about how the government's, it's a failure on the part of government. Can you give us any suggestions how we can improve the education system in Manipur? Professor, I think you're on mute. Can you unmute? Okay.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
Can I continue?
Yes, please go on.
Okay. So, if we like to discuss the present education system in Manipur, in particular, and in India in general, it is very much necessary to analyze it from two perspectives.
Okay.
One is from the theoretical perspective, and another one is from the practical perspective. When I'm saying of the theoretical perspective, the system itself, in theory, it is found to be very good. Because when compared with other Western countries, government has done something for the students, and as already pointed out by one of our resource persons, there is a constitutional safeguard, what we call right to education.
Right.
So when we analyze theoretically the system, yes, system is good because it is a people-oriented system.
Okay.
But when we analyze it at the practical level, that at the implementation part of the education system, so there lies the drawbacks, there lies the demerits of the Indian education system. So, frankly speaking, when we analyze the implementation part of the Indian education system, we can analyze it from three important perspectives. One is the human resource infrastructure.
Okay.
Second one is the physical infrastructure. Third one is the curriculum. That means the standard of the syllabus. Is it at the international standard or like this? So when we see this, as we understand, in case of the private schools, infrastructure, that means physical infrastructure, is to some extent bearable. But in case of the government schools, whether it be in the higher education or whether it be in the school education, particularly in school education, the infrastructure is found to be very poor. When we are speaking of the infrastructure, we mean the classrooms, then what about these washrooms, the different things, and the teaching aids and all these things. So in case of the government schools, particularly in infrastructure, it is very much below the standard. As already mentioned, there is no proper washroom for the students as well as for the teachers. And at the same time, there is no proper teaching aid in majority of the schools. So nowadays, this is the digital age. So in this digital age, we should give proper infrastructure, digital infrastructure for teaching learning process. Here, when we analyze the point, then it is found to be very much unfortunate, and it is found to be very much, what I should say, discouraging. But when I come to the human resource infrastructure, when I am speaking of the human resource infrastructure, that is about the teachers, because teachers are the knowledge workers.
Absolutely.
Teachers are not only knowledge workers, they are also knowledge creators. In case of the higher education, innovative kind of education, in lower education also. So teachers are not only knowledge workers, but they are also knowledge creators. As already pointed out by the Honorable Minister, as well as others published in the daily newspapers, the human resource infrastructure is found to be very much inadequate, both in school and the college educations. As pointed out by the Honorable Minister, as published in the papers, the dearth of the teachers is not in terms of hundreds, it is in terms of thousands.
Right.
If there are no teachers, if there are no knowledge workers and the knowledge creators, how can we impart education to our young minds, to our young researchers? So in this way, human resource infrastructure is also found to be very much in a very, very, very heavy situation.
Okay.
It is not very much encouraging, it is very much discouraging. So in terms of human resource infrastructure, as well as physical infrastructure, government school is in a very bad shape or in a very bad situation. But in case of the private institution, to some extent, it is bearable up to the secondary level, because in Imphal or in Manipur nowadays, there are a good higher secondary schools and the high schools. So in case of the college, but it is a bit discouraging, I should say. But in case of the human resource infrastructure, both in schools and the colleges, it is very much discouraging, because in colleges also there is no adequate human resource infrastructure. For example, as per university rule, if a college offers honors, at least there should be 7 teachers in the department. But in most of the colleges in Manipur, from my practical experience, some departments are run by only 3 teachers.
Okay.
Please, how can we expect good education when a department is run by only 3 teachers? So, in such a way, whether it be in the college or whether it be in the schools, human resource infrastructure are in a very, very discouraging situation. So, if the government does not pay attention to the development of the human resource infrastructure of both school and college education, the education system in Manipur will be in a very, very bad shape, will be in a very, very bad situation in the time to come. So it is the need of the hour is to improve physical infrastructure as well as the human resource infrastructure of the present education system in Manipur. But in case of the curriculum, at least, as the state is going to implement education policy, new education policy. So in the new education policy, when we analyze it, there are very good things are there. Teaching of the students in the lower class in the regional language. So there are many good things. System itself, I think, it is good in terms of its syllabus and the curriculum. But in terms of its infrastructure, both in physical infrastructure and the human resource infrastructure, it is very much discouraging. This is the thing what I like to express in the first round.
Thank you so much for your views, Professor. I'll move to the second round. We'll start off with Mr. Satyajeet. Well, Mr. Satyajeet, the Education Minister of Manipur made a statement on education that teaching is one of the noblest professions, and he also said that they should be able to produce, according to the NEP 2020, we should be able to produce better teachers and educators in the future, because the future lies in the hands of the educator, of the teachers and the educators. What are your views on that? Do you think the teachers are qualified enough, or how do you think they're passionate enough to take up this profession, or do you think it's because of the money, and especially in private colleges? Sorry, I beg your pardon, in schools. Private schools.
Yeah, in this aspect, I would, I remember an incident in Bhutan, because many Indians are working as teachers in Bhutan.
Right.
They always tell the story of how teachers are treated there. They always sit in the front seat. I mean, all the Bhutanese people, they will pray to them, they will greet to them, and they are in the highest echelon of the society in Bhutan. Whereas in India, if you see, for example, you take the example of DM College of Science, not only Science, Art, DM College University. When I visited there for admission of one of my nieces, I found that the top echelon was controlled not by the educationists, I mean, who come from the education sector. I mean, they were bureaucrats, I mean, working as in the high echelon of the DM College of University. That is exactly where lies the fault.
Okay.
The high echelon of university, like the Vice Chancellor, then Registrar, then Head of Departments, it should be controlled by teachers who have dedicated their life in education sector. For example, if the registrar is from the bureaucracy, how will he or she know what exactly are the requirements of the teacher? I mean, they have to do lots of research work. They have to do lots of activities in research, which our professor will be knowing. That is something which the bureaucracy does. So that is exactly where lies the problem in Manipur. We need to respect our teachers. I mean, give due respect to them, and their service should be utilized, and we should respect for the service they give to us and to the society. This is exactly what is lacking in our society. And so I feel that if we do not give due respect to our teachers, I mean, who have given us education, who have given us the light to shine in our life, then there is no future in our country and in Manipur. We always say that teachers are next to God. I mean, even before we meet God and teachers, who will you greet first?
Yes.
We always say we should greet teachers first, but that is not happening in the administrative setup. So I would say if, for instance, in many of the schools in Manipur, you will find that there's no principal at all. In colleges also, that is because the promotion line of promotion, then the system of giving annual increment to the teachers, it is not there in the teaching profession. Whereas for the bureaucrats, it is well charted out. I mean, for the IAS, IPS, it is well charted out. I mean, they will rise to the top. Whereas for the teachers, I mean, one teacher who will be teaching in one class, he or she will be teaching for the entire life, dedicating throughout. There will be no incentive. So they become disgruntled. So I will say that teaching profession, those who are working in the teaching profession, they need to be respected, and they should be given the cheer they deserve. Thank you.
Very rightly said. But well, just one more question regarding this. It's a very common thing we see nowadays that even the teachers take up the profession because of maybe ease of the work timings, and maybe because they probably have no other aim in life. I've seen a lot of people do that, take up teaching as a profession, not because of passion, but because they think it's not a very easy job. But then that's a general view, like let's say for pre-primary or primary schools. So what would you like to add for that?
The basic fault line in this sector is the recruitment process. Recruitment process should be foolproof. I mean, when we recruit teachers, we should know whether the person whom we are recruiting has a capability to look after the students. Teaching is not just giving classes. I mean, teaching is a social activity also.
Absolutely.
So our professor will know better than me because he has been working in the university for such a long time. I have also associated with him for a very long time, so he must have been knowing me. And so exactly, I mean, teachers, they associate with the children, they know what their psychology. I mean, teaching is not just only giving speeches. I mean, they are supposed to interact, know what they're feeling. I mean, it is a social activity. Recruitment process should be foolproof. There should be no corruption. I mean, if you recruit teachers by taking money and I mean, just for the sake of it, then it is meaningless. So the best process is to have a foolproof recruitment process where we can have the best teachers in the society, and in that way we can save our state and our country also, and we can nurture our children also. Having a foolproof recruitment policy is the only way that I would say.
That's a wonderful thought. I'll come back to this point again in the next round. I'll move to Mr. Sapam Shyamananda. Mr. Sapam, what do you think? What is your view on having free education like it's practiced in some of the countries where education is free, offered free for primary or even secondary levels? However, maybe paid education does ensure a far better quality education in India. But what are your views on this free education system? What do you think? Would you encourage such a system? Or would we be able to do commit to that?
Right, right. So, so there are two things to it, right? So one, when it definitely education at the level that the costs that we pay for the government school student in India is actually free. I mean, it's almost free, right? You pay what 750 rupees for an admission for the whole year, and then you have free uniforms, and in some schools you even give free food and things like that, right? And if you look at the model of the Delhi government today, they are giving everything for free almost, right? So if I take this example to United States of America, where I lived for some time, education is free almost of every, I mean, in the whole country, if I can look at it, at least up to the high school level, right? Because and definitely depending on which state you live, there are ups and downs of good schools and bad schools in that theory of the way things work over there. But in India, Utpala, the education system is free when you look at from a from the government education system standpoint. However, if I send my child rather to not an Anganwadi but an elementary school or a high school in Manipur, high school I think it's a little better, but I think the schools up to about class 8, the government schools, is in a very bad condition, and as Tamo has rightly pointed out, from that infrastructure standpoint, the schools are in a very dilapidated condition. When there's when it rains, the classroom is flooded and there's full of mud in the classroom. There are no benches and things like that, right? But forget about the teachers. Teachers next, right? When you don't have Manipur, it rains like 5 to 6 months a year, and you don't have a proper classroom where children can be safe. Who wants to send their children to the school, right? So it starts from there, and that's when a parent has the option to send their child to a private school, and the competition starts there, right? And private schools are also, you can have a range of private schools, from a very cheap private school to a very costly private school, and children are, parents are like, they don't have a choice, because they want the best of their child, right? So at the end of the day, I think if the government is able to ensure that the free education that is provided at the level, at the same level as the private schools that they're being provided, no parent will send a child to the private school, and private schools actually will die, because students will not enroll to those private schools, right? Or maybe some handful of the the top rich somebody who's able to pay that fee, that they will go. But let's say 90% of the students are going to the government schools. By default, the business per se, as we started the topic about, is the education being privatized, or is there a business being done around that system, will fail in itself, right? But because of the very failure of the government or the policy makers, and because they are not ensuring that the right teachers are not hired at the right levels, and people join teachers just to get just like a government job. And as Tamo Satyajeet rightly pointed out, teachers is a very noble job, and definitely the respect needs to be given. But if you hire the wrong teacher who wants to go to school and do nothing, then the whole school will fail overall, and the youth will have no skills for the future that we're looking at, right? So it's a complete chain reaction that happens, Utpala, that I can highlight, right? So to me, free education is already there. It is just about the way the government ensures that it's implemented at the right manner it's supposed to be, and that's what I wanted to highlight.
Okay, so now what do you think could be the reason behind the government schools being in such dilapidated states? Is it because of lack of funds, or do you think it's because of corruption? What are your views on that? Because Delhi has definitely gone ahead. I'm sorry, I beg your, yeah, please go ahead.
Right. No, you were mentioning about Delhi. So there is no lack of funds, Utpala. I think if the minister, education minister, or any policy maker for that matter, says that there is the lack of funds. I think we cannot take that, because India is growing leaps and bounds, and there is enough funds being allocated for every department or every domain that we are into, right? So there is no lack of funds, but rather there is I would say the intent is not strong enough to bring the change that we want to see, right? I think if I am a policy maker in the education system today in Manipur, and if I sleep at night without doing anything, without thinking about what should I do tomorrow to bring the change in Manipur, then I'm sorry that person should not be in that system at all, Utpala. I think if somebody has the intent and somebody wants to do today in this world where everything is possible, we are no longer disconnected, or we no longer have issues around lack of transportation or lack of electricity and things like that. I think a school can be changed over the next 6 to 1 year from all accounts, as Tamo rightly mentioned, from all accounts, meaning from the infrastructure standpoint, from the right teacher standpoint, and everything can be changed. 6 months to 1 year, things can be changed if that person has the intent, and if that person, I'm saying, when I say person, meaning somebody responsible, accountable in the government, from the bureaucrats and to the minister level, who has the authority to take the right decisions and and bring the change, right? Bring the change that we want to see. And that's how I look at it, Utpala.
Okay, thank you for your views. We'll come back to you in the next round. Well, Professor Nabakumar,
Yes.
Our panelist, Mr. Sapam, just said that we have private schools which have cheap, the fee range. It can go from cheaper fees to more expensive and sometimes even exorbitant fees. Now, I don't know about, I won't say that about Manipur. It's more or less at a very pretty affordable level for people, working people, but not for the lower income people. So do you think that there should be a cap on the fees charged by these private schools? And
yes.
how can we do that?
In case of private schools also, as we all know, there are ranges, as already pointed out by the resource persons. Tuition fee and the other fees of the school are found to be very high in certain schools.
Absolutely.
And in some of the schools, fees are found to be somewhat moderate.
Right.
But anyway, here in case of the private schools also, is we have already discussed about the education system as a business establishment. In majority of the private schools,
right,
or I should say in almost all the private schools, teachers are found to be very much underfed.
Okay.
This is the one of the important drawbacks of the private schools.
Okay.
So in case of the pay scales of the private schools, as well as aided schools, government should have a definite policy.
Okay.
So far, the government of Manipur has no specific policy about the payment of the salaries of the private schools. So
Okay.
in some of the private schools, teachers are getting about 10,000. In some teachers are getting more than 20,000. Some teachers are getting less than 6,000.
Okay.
So there are the variations. So as the pay of the teachers varies from school to schools, so there is a variation in the teaching mode as
Right.
well as in the teaching learning process also. For example, if a teacher is found to be very much underpaid, he cannot or she cannot pay full attention to his profession.
Absolutely.
He or she is trying to earn extra money by doing tuition at home or even in school premises. So if government looks into this matter seriously and a uniform policy has been framed and implemented throughout the state, there will be some development in the education system. It is my feeling. I'm subject to correction. But in case of the government schools, teachers are highly paid.
Okay.
As we understand, in case of the government schools, teachers have to go trainings also.
Okay.
It's not in case of the higher secondary and the high schools, they have to undergo B.Ed. And in case of the school teachers also, they have to undergo a training provided by the DIETs
Okay.
that exist in different districts of the state. So, as we understand, in many of the private schools, teachers are not well-trained teachers. But in case of the government schools, teachers are found to be well-trained and that they are well-paid. But when we see the product coming out from the private schools are found to be far better than the product coming out from the government schools. Here lies the attention of the government. Teachers are well-paid, teachers are well-trained, but if the products are not good, where lies the fault? So we have to find out. The Honorable Minister as well as the academic administrators have to look into this matter very seriously. If they do not look into this matter seriously and if they do not take the situation serious enough, then our education system will not be improved. But in case of the private schools also, yes, teachers are underpaid and that they have been overexploited. They have to take classes from early morning, for example, from 8 to this 2, 3, they have to go through the homeworks of the students. But if they are underpaid, they will not pay full attention to their profession. And moreover, one important thing which I like to share with all the respected resource persons is that in Manipur, teachers are what I should say, people don't make teacher as a profession. Teachers are not made by choice. Teachers are made by default. So when a child is trained in the school, some like to become administrators, some like to become doctors, some like to become engineers, some like to become social workers or like that, but nobody likes to become a teacher. So teaching itself is an art. Teaching itself is an art. At the same time, teachers should be dedicated. If a teacher does not dedicate to his profession, then he will not be able to do justice to the students. That's why I'm telling you, when the teachers are underpaid, they will not do justice to their students. Then when teachers are not dutiful, they will not do justice to the students. So teachers are not doing their duty well in the government schools, and the teachers are not well paid in the private schools. These are the drawbacks which we found both in private schools and the government schools. So government should look into this matter, and the government should frame a definite policy about the payment of the teachers, particularly in the private schools, about the admission fee, about the tuition fee. There should be an amount should be fixed by the government.
Absolutely.
And all the government schools and the private schools should follow the rule. If the government does not frame the rule, a school may take 250 tuition fee per month. Some schools are taking 500, some schools are taking 600. So in such a way, there is no democratization in the education system.
Absolutely.
Our country is the greatest democratic country, but we do not democratize our education system. So democratization of the education system is the need of the hour. So government should look into this matter, honorable ministers should look into this matter, and they should take it seriously. If they do not take it seriously, then it will be too late. So our future is very dim. This is the thing what I feel at the moment.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in on one point?
Yes, please go ahead.
Tamo mentioned. Yeah. So Utpala, I think in my opinion, and I want to slightly differ from what Tamo mentioned. So there is a private school, and there is a teacher which he mentioned that they are not trained at the same time. They are not paid enough. Now, many of these teachers in private schools which I have interacted, there are two kinds of teachers. One who's waiting for a government job or waiting to join a government teacher themselves, right? Or waiting, let's say, preparing for some UPSC exams and things like that, right? Now, I do not think they are not paid enough. I've seen many teachers by these private schools. As of today, Tamo, actually, I'm saying maybe in the past there are news that maybe 10 years ago they were not paid, but today due to the competition and the lack of good teachers, I'm hearing that a lot of teachers, schools are poaching one teacher from another, and they're highly paid. Now, yes, they may not have undergone any formal training, but I've seen that many of these teachers have been conducting private tuitions in their own home, so they know the subject very well, so to say, right? But I completely agree with Tamo when he said that while the government teachers are well trained and they're also paid, I would say at a similar levels with many other government employees. However, the outcome in terms of the students is very poor, right? So as I want to say that's where the intent comes in, right? That's when the policymakers have to ensure that teachers are coming to school on time and leaving the school on time. So we've spoken many things about digitization and all these things, right? But I think the very failure of again, I'm coming back to the same point, the very failure of the fact that government schools are not performing as they are supposed to perform, that's when the private schools are mushrooming. That's what I want to highlight.
Yes. This is very correct. Okay. I fully agree with you.
Thank you for that. I'll come to the next round. Mr. N. Satyajeet. Okay, so we did speak about, you said there should be a very stringent recruitment system for the teachers in whether it's, as Professor Nabakumar said, for government schools, it's already done and they're paid well and they're trained well. But when we come to private schools, we have, don't you think, you did mention that there should be a selection process, but how do you think they can check the qualification? Okay, apart from the obvious certificates that they would have, don't you think they should have some sort of a test or an aptitude test to see how they can handle children under pressure, and also how professional, well, there are teachers, I'm not sure about private schools, but in government schools there are processes of getting in, we all know that, I mean a different process apart from just the qualification. So how qualified do you think these teachers in private schools are? Because what happens is we send our children to private schools, they go there, they spend a lot of time, 7 hours there, they come back and then we have to send them for private tuitions. So if they're qualified enough, why is it that our children need to go for private tuitions or extra classes? Why isn't that this kind of, if the teachers are qualified enough, they should be able to make the children understand the subject in school rather than make them come back, go for these extra classes or tuitions. So again, it comes out to commercialization and a mode of business. It actually helps in all these private institutes mushrooming, coaching institutes. So what do you say about that? How can we minimize that?
Yes, during the last 10 to 20 years, there had been some discussion and analysis about the toppers in India, especially CBSE.
Right.
It was found that those who topped, they didn't go for private tuition classes.
Okay.
For CBSE. The common answer was they said they studied for 4 to 8 hours daily on a regular basis, and they never went for private tuition.
Okay.
For class 1 to 12, there is no need to go for private tuition. I mean, that is my personal opinion. But if you want to go for medical examination, engineering examination, then you require special classes, just like so that you can get admitted in very good educational institute for medical engineering, architecture, etc. So and in this aspect, most of the private schools in Manipur and in India, I mean, just a tough competition among themselves to produce very good students. For example, if you get very good marks in class 10, I mean, few colleges, higher secondary schools will be coming to you. Especially private schools, they'll be offering you money, they'll be offering you free education, so that they will have a good chance of having toppers in class 12. So it's a very healthy, good competition in the private institution. I mean, that's a welcome step. It is good also, because it is an incentive to the students to get good marks to be topper also.
Right.
But the problem arises when it comes to lower income group children. When they are not able to go to private institutes. When I interacted with some of the students who are very bright, they said that the admission fee, it is the only problem, they said, because most of the private institutes, they take the admission fee every year. They say if they take it for 1 year, admission fee is, I mean, it has to be, I mean, till one completes till class 10 or class 10, whatever the school provides. But most of the private institutes, they say, they complain that they take admission fee at a very high rate. For example, computer fee, library fee, building fee. I mean, I don't know the details. But so that is exactly the problem, they said. And then the other issue which we keep on interacting with the students during press conferences. So the other issue they raised was the problem of the schools providing bags. I mean, it has become like a business, and that is the one problem. They also said bags, then dresses, then regularly they will be asked to give money for some activities, and so that's exactly the other issue. But comparatively, I would say the educational institutions in Manipur, they are very good, but the amount they are also charging, it is very less. I mean, if you have if you go to Delhi and all, the admission is very high. Whereas in Manipur, it is within a very range of a few thousand. Even the monthly fee is only 1,000 plus, mostly 1,000, little more than 1,000 in Manipur. But if you go to Bangalore and Delhi and Mumbai, it is extremely high because I mean, one would be astounded if I tell the amount also. They take the admission fee in lakhs, even for primary students. So that is the basic problem which we face in India. The other problem which in India is the inability of our structure of the government to control the fee structure. In medical, we have seen that lots of students, they went to Ukraine. Now they have come back, they have lost their career. It is because the government is not able to control the price which the institute is supposed to take from the students. We are losing our money, we are losing our students, we are losing our, it is a money drain in other sense. Money drain also, because those students who could not afford, they have to go to other countries, for example, China, Bangladesh, Nepal, engineering students. That is a basic problem. So we need to control, we need to have a system where we can have a proper regulation of how much fee we are collecting from the students. India will progress, people will progress.
Okay, but here I'll just come back to the question that I had asked. We're talking about students in private schools where they get kind of attention from teachers, and there's a lot of activities, so to say. Why is it that even the primary students, Mr. Satyajeet, are you there? I think we've lost connection with the...
I couldn't hear properly, but words I could get. I would say that the students in the private schools, I mean, when they go for education, whether in government schools or private schools, this is my personal opinion. Tuition is not required. I mean, you can ask some of your seniors, I mean, what exactly is the problem of this, the solution. I'm not able to solve this mathematical problem. But a regular tuition is not required. And, but it has become a short in Manipur also.
It's become like a trend, Mr. Satyajeet. I mean, when parents are discussing children and schools, it always comes down to who's your maths tutor, who's your, even children, they look for tutors for just for cursive writing, or even for just for learning the alphabet. So it's become like a trend. So again, is it because of the fault of the school, the private schools not teaching them well enough, or is it because it's a sort of a trend?
The problem with lies with our social structure also. And the pressure of the parents also. Now the parents feel that the children need extra classes to compete for higher studies. The competition is so high in our country, even in our state also. The competition is so tough after class 12 that they need special classes. So there's a social pressure, there's a pressure from the peers, and especially among the parents as also, that if we do not send our children for private tuition, they will not be able to perform. That is just one thing which we need to discuss, and we need to inform the parents that children don't require regular classes beyond the schools because it would disturb their activities also. For example, I mean, humans, we are supposed to play also.
Absolutely.
We need to interact. So if we keep our children in the morning for tuition, they will come back. Then after they come back, they will go
to school.
You know, social activities. They need to learn sports. They need to take up lots of activities which they are missing.
Yes.
So life is not only education, and reading the book is not only education. I mean,
absolutely.
Music is also the sports. It's also, you need to believe, you need to give attention to your health also. So there are so many factors. I mean, there are so many aspects also. We need to discuss this more, and I hope more discussions will have to. And I hope parents will also realize that we need not send our children to private tuition, especially low class jobs. I mean, if they are going for medical and engineering examinations, they need to go.
Yes,
but
right. For higher studies, that's perfectly fine. But for lower classes, the whole point is the whole day goes in studies, and there's no time for extracurricular activities. So thank you so much for your views. I'll move to Mr. Sapam Shyamananda, continuing with the same topic.
I can. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, I was just saying that children have to go for extra classes or tuitions, or we have home tutors coming over and teaching them, spending at least an hour or two every day. And then there are children who go for early morning tuitions and then late evening tuitions. And as it is, Manipur is a place where the sun sets pretty early, so there's no time for them to play. What are your thoughts on that? And moreover, most of the schools do not offer extracurricular activities, as far as I know.
Yes. So there are two parts to that puzzle, right? To that query. I think to that question, I think Tamar Satyajeet has covered most of it. Now, the only word that I want to coin in this session today is that I think parents and students, to an extent, are suffering from a illness called tuition mania, right? Tuition mania. If I don't go for a tuition, then I feel that I'm missing out something big in life, right?
Right. Okay.
So whether I know the subject or not, I have to go for tuition, and I think whether I can afford it or not, I have to go for it. So I think there is a very big rat race when it comes to private schools, going to private schools, and there's another rat race when it comes to going for tuition classes or even enrolling for something like Baiju. I was very surprised when Baiju was kind of expanding really fast in Imphal and the other districts also, right? So definitely the school should not see there is a complete focus on medical and engineering exams, or rather the courses, and scoring high marks in the higher secondary examination at the class 12 board, as we call, right? So the competition is completely focused on scoring high marks and nothing but high marks, right? Then what does this to the student and the parents? Everybody is like, from morning, noon, night, I'm only talking about, okay, how much, some parents are very proud when they say that, okay, my son or my ward has completed all subjects before going to school, right? I mean, during the summer break of 11 and 12, they have completed everything. My son has completed everything through the tuition classes. Now, do I need to send the child to the school again? I mean, it's kind of a very strange competition in that sense, Utpala, which I don't know where it started, how it started.
I think they've taken away the fun from studies, because at least when we were in school, we never went for tuitions and we managed to get distinction. But nowadays, children have become so dependent on tuitions that they have this thing at the back of their mind that if they do not go for tuitions, they're going to fail or they're going to get low marks. They don't want to work for it.
Exactly. I don't know where that all started, right? And you, as you rightly said, we are paying, a high fees and joining the private schools so that the school is enough for the student, right? And there should be other time spent on other extracurricular activities. Could be sports, could be music, could be so many things, right?
Absolutely.
And that in itself, I see so many students who wants to go for a career in the field of, let's say, art.
Okay.
Or in the field of students who want to go take up arts and commerce are forcibly made to take up science. This is another problem we have in Manipur. The second part is that students who wants to pursue a career in sports, their parents doesn't support it, right? I don't know why we have many parents clapping their hands and screaming when Meira gets a goal in Commonwealth, right? But who tell me a parent who wants their child to become a next Meira Chanu? You will not find anybody, right? So this is one topic which is very dear to my heart, that parents are not able to think beyond engineers and doctors and maybe IAS officers and maybe lawyers, right? But there is 100,000 other careers beyond that. And I think as Tamo rightly pointed out the earlier time, that we are not having the students who are opting teachers as careers, right? So I think it all boils down to the society we live in, the parents' awareness level, where they think that if my child is not scoring 85-90% in class 12, then their career is over, which is not over at all, right? I mean, you can fail in your high school, but you can still become a very successful entrepreneur, right? So I think that's that mindset of the whole system, where everybody is part of this rat race needs to be broken, and this can be only broken when, as we started in the beginning, right, the policymakers, the government in itself comes in and intervenes and ensure that such private tuitions are not mushrooming, right? I think we cannot stop them like anything, but if the teachers in the school starts teaching everything to the level that they're supposed to do, then the student themselves will tell the parents that, Mom, Dad, I don't need to go for a tuition because my teacher in school is teaching enough, right? I think that's where the balance has to come in, Utpala. And it's very sad today that despite having good teachers or which in many private schools, we still have this tuition mania, if I can use that word, in our society.
Yes, apparently it seems to be a tuition mania. Thank you so much for your input, Mr. Sapam. I'll move to Professor Nabakumar. Well, Professor, do you think that government schools, like we did speak about this in one of in the previous round about the government having enough funds. So, don't you think, like we'll always bring up Delhi as an example because Delhi has gone ahead and done it. Don't you think that the government of Manipur should be able to revamp the schools, the government schools in Manipur, and encourage more students? Or is it truly that we really lack the funds?
Yes, lack of funds is already pointed out by one of the respected resource persons. India spent only 3% of the GDP to education, particularly in lower and higher education. Yes, India need to invest more in the development of the human resource, because education is the source of the development of the human resource. In that case, government of India needs to spend more. But if we discuss the situation nowadays, yes, what I feel at the moment is that, yes, investment in the education sector is found to be low. But still, though it is low, but the funds are not used properly. This is the thing I feel. Because in Manipur, for example, more than 7,000 teachers are 7,000 posts of teachers are lying vacant. All the amount to be paid as salary to the teachers are in the government, are with the government. It's not it, because all these are the non-planned posts. Everything has been included in the budget for the non-planned posts. So the the government does not recruit the teachers. As the government does not recruit the teachers, they don't spend the money. Though they have the money in their hand, they don't spend the money because they do not recruit the teachers. What are the difficulties in recruiting the teachers? As soon as a teacher is retired or as soon as a teacher is dead, government should take formal actions for the recruitment or for the fill-up of the vacant posts. So in this case, though the amount of money invested by the government of Manipur as well as by the government of India in the education sector is low, then at the same time, in addition to that, the government is also not using the allotted funds in a very, very, very appropriated manner. This is the thing what I feel. So whatever resources the government has should utilize in a proper manner so that they could give effective education to the students. Otherwise, if more than 7,000 posts of the teachers are lying vacant, though the government has money in their hand, they do not invest the money. It's not it. This is the thing. So government should think over all these things very seriously. So the vacant posts should be filled up at the earliest possible time. So otherwise, though they have money, they do not utilize the money. This is the thing. So in such a way, so government should be serious enough. I should say, when I said this, government is not serious enough. Yes, they are giving high attention, as pointed out by the Honorable Chief Minister, Honorable Education Minister. They are paying attention to the education. So what I like to request them through the medium of this discussion, please do give more attention to the education sector, because development of human resource is the future of the society. If we do not develop human resource through proper education system, the future of the state as well as the future of the country is very dim. This is the thing what I feel at the moment.
Thank you again for your...
I just want to...
yes, please go ahead.
I just want to bring in a point over here when you mentioned that, right? So recently, our Honorable Education Minister has said something in one of the, I think the 50th anniversary of the teachers. There's a function where he mentioned this, and it came in news, and it kind of spiraled or it became a viral point, right? Where he mentioned that the current infrastructure is really bad, and there is no lack of teachers and everything he mentioned, and nothing can be done. I think the message said that nothing can be done. We can never bring any change in the education system, right? So I don't know from what context he said that, but I haven't read the entire news clip and also haven't heard the speech. But I think maybe something went wrong, and I don't know maybe how he crafted the speech. But Tamo, do you think that the education minister would have that kind of a mindset, saying that nothing can be changed? Because if he himself says nothing can be changed, then the game is over, right? So I don't know what can be done on that.
He may mention the point. He may mention the point. In my opinion, the problem the education system in Manipur is facing is an accumulated problem. The problem has not been created overnight. The problem itself is the accumulation of the many years, I should say, many years. So seeing all these things, education minister may be very much disappointed, because if we like to make correction in the system itself, it will take long time, because the problem has been an accumulated problem. So from that perspective, he may say that a good administrator may not be able to develop the education system in the present scenario. So from this, what we understand is that the problem the education system is facing in our state is an accumulated problem. So we all, parents, teachers, then government, we all should take equal share or we should take equal responsibility in the development of the education system. Only the government will not make correction of the system. The parents also, as we have discussed in case of the tuition has become a passion. So the parents also have to play a constructive role in the development of the education system.
Yes.
Then teachers, more particular, should play a positive role in the development of the education system, because dedication is a must for a teacher. At the same time, government also should be serious enough, and they should try to decrease the problem as the time comes. Otherwise, if the problem accumulates as the time comes, then after some 10 or 5 years, then it will be very difficult to make correction. This is the situation which we face today.
I fully agree with you, Namo, on that point. And I think I just want to use one phrase which is very popular in our state, right? Whenever we see a problem, and as you rightly said, it's an accumulated problem. This problem didn't arise like yesterday. It has been accumulated over many years, and many past education ministers and bureaucrats and the leaders of our society has added to the problem. But I think somewhere we should not approach a particular problem with this mindset, so-called mindset, if I can say, called oiraroi yararoi shoi yararoi. So I think if we approach a problem with that mindset, then we are not thinking enough, is what I can say, because every problem has a solution. Maybe the solution may take 6 months or 1 year or maybe 2 years, but I think if you have a vision, and I think we have this National Education Policy 2020 and things like that, but I think beyond that, maybe we can craft something called Manipur education system in 2025 or maybe 2030, and then take baby steps from now. Have that vision of, you know, the best schools, government schools in India should be in Manipur. You know, top 10 government schools and things. That if you have that vision, and if not you as in, if we all have that vision and start taking those baby steps from today, I think we should be able to reach the goal that we want to see, right? And that's what I wanted to highlight, Tamo.
That was an absolutely wonderful point. Well, I'll come to the last round of this debate. Well, Mr. Satyajeet, Professor Nabakumar, Mr. Satyajeet, are you there?
Yes. I'm here. I can hear.
Mr. N. Satyajeet. I think he's not on the line. Well, Professor Nabakumar, you in the beginning you had mentioned that all schools, say private as well as government schools, need HR infrastructure, physical infrastructure and curriculum. Since government schools do have, now since we are talking about schools, education systems being commercialized or becoming businesses, the only way we can cut down on that would be, discourage that rather, would be by improving government schools so that education becomes more accessible to people from all walks of life. So we're talking about HR infrastructure, which is apparently seems to be in place, but in fact you said there are a lot of vacancies there. Then the curriculum can be worked on because the teachers are they're well qualified. So all we need, as far as I can see, is the physical infrastructure. So why can't the government pay a little attention to the physical infrastructure of the schools and change the whole scenario of the education system in Manipur?
Yes. So here, when we discuss the matter, so government is also always speaking about the rationalization of the transfer policy, rationalization of the education system itself. But as we understand, there is no adequate rationalization. As we understand, in some of the government colleges, there are more than 1,000 students.
Okay.
So in many of the government schools having more than 1,000 students, there are only 6 or 7 teachers. And in some schools where the number of students is found to be less than 200, there are more than 10 teachers.
Why is this disparity?
This disparity is rationalization is very much necessary.
Is it because of the location of the school?
Is very much necessary as per new education policy.
Right.
teacher-student ratio should be 1:10 to 1:15 like that.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
in a government school having more than 1,000 students, if the number of teachers is 7, then the teacher-student ratio is about 1:200, something like that. If the teacher-student ratio is 1:100, then how can a teacher impart proper education to the students? So there lies the importance of this development of the human resource infrastructure, that is teachers. But in case of the higher education, as we understand, teachers are not only education knowledge givers, they are also knowledge creators. In higher education, research is to be done in different fields. The horizon of the knowledge needs to be expanded. If the government does not spend or does not invest enough amount of money, then research will not be carried out successfully. So no horizon of the knowledge cannot be extended, or horizon of the knowledge cannot be expanded. So in such a way, more investment in the higher education is also the need of the hour, because in higher education, knowledge is to be created. We have to compete internationally. So if research is not carried out properly, and if the teachers do not have adequate facilities for carrying out research, then knowledge cannot be created. So the horizon of the knowledge will remain constant. So in case of the higher education, what I feel, more investments should be made by the government for giving facilities of research to the teachers. But in case of this lower education, then proper number of teachers, proper number of posts for the teachers should be created, as I'm telling you, as I'm expressing. So if there are about more than 1,000 students, the number of teachers should be about some 30-40. So in some government colleges, there are only some 20-25 students in some lower primary schools, but there are about 6 or 7 teachers. So there lies the politics, as we all know, because majority of the teachers like to serve in the greater Imphal area. They don't like to go to hill areas, and they don't like to go to the rural areas. So here, government has to apply strict law. That means rationalization. So though government is speaking about the rationalization, then in terms of the implementation, they do not rationalize it properly. So my request to the government is rationalization policies should be taken up effectively. Otherwise, there will be no development in the education sector, particularly in the government schools and the colleges.
Thank you so much for your input, Professor. I'll move to the last question of the day. Mr. Satyajeet, are you there?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So we were discussing about the lack of students in the schools, in government schools. Do you think that it's obviously correlated, because the government schools are not doing very well in terms of infrastructure and curriculum, and in the number of teachers being present for the number of students? Do you think it's the reason why private schools are cropping up everywhere, and in a way we're encouraging education as a business rather than a service?
Will you just
Mr. Satyajeet,
give it?
I think it seems like there's some network issues.
Network issues there.
Okay, so I think okay, Mr. Satyajeet, are you back online? Can you hear us? Okay, I think I'll pass the question to Mr. Sapam.
Yeah, I can take that.
Yes.
I can take that. I think we've been discussing from the beginning on this, right? I think there was this strange, I would say, strange policy around maybe I would say about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, where suddenly one fine day there was an announcement that all students, or rather all children of the teachers of government school should send their so that let me rephrase the point, right? So teachers of government school should send their students to the same school where they're teaching.
Okay.
So that was the a policy that was made. I don't know, from somewhere it came out, and then I remember, one of our uncle whose whose son was studying in a private school had to and join the government school, right? So there was like a force-fitting sort of a policy, but Utpala, to the same point, right? Business in education cannot be put on hold or cannot be stopped. Okay,
right.
There is a word even called edupreneur, right? So edupreneur is somebody who's an entrepreneur in the field of education, right?
Okay.
There's a term called edtech, right? So technology that supports education, right? And we talk about, just to quote a number,
right.
Recently there was a discussion that there was a report that says that edtech will be a $4 billion industry in India,
okay.
Going forward. And some other report that talks about all the skilling technology will lead to about some $313 billion industry, right? So
okay.
privatization of the colleges or the schools cannot be, I would say, slowed down. The only way I would say that the government should do, and I'm expressing my viewpoint that our respected education minister should do, is that with all the limited funds and with all the limited resources that we have, right? Let's ensure that the teachers are teaching the students to the extent that they can, and covering all the aspects of the courses, and we can even plan in a way that, see, not every government school student can top or can complete their matriculation exam or the class 12 exam, and the passing rate is so low, right? It starts from there, so we can measure the performance. But however, a student performing well in class 10 or 12, it all depends on how the student was groomed way back in their elementary and the middle school, so to say, stages, right? So if somebody, I remember one of the government teacher once told me that from elementary school, whoever joins their school, so their school is a higher secondary school that starts at class 6, right? Okay. And a student who's joining class 6 doesn't even know how to write their names. It starts from there, right? So so somewhere we are lacking in all I would say we are failing rather in all sections, but the failure starts at the elementary level. If we do well at the elementary level, and if we ensure that the elementary schools are performing to the extent that they're supposed to perform, there will be competitions of private schools. Let the business grow. Let there be competition. Let the parents who can afford send their children to the private schools.
Absolutely.
However, there is another 33% of still our society has this set of students who doesn't have an option but has to go to the government school. But the problem is that they go to school with no dream and with no hope, because we all know that the situation that he goes to a government school, so he will ultimately fail in class 10 and he'll drop out and become a drug addict or things like that. So I think now that doesn't mean that students in private schools cannot get into that whole scenario of becoming a drug addict, right? But I'm saying that students in the government school should be given hope and dreams to become the next Meira Chanu, right? To become the next boxer who will bring a gold medal in an Olympics, right? Or to become the next, I would say, filmmaker or a film star. So I think there are many other career options where you have to score 99% or 12. And they can actually set up so many other career-oriented programs, like somebody who can become, they can after class 10, somebody can take up diploma courses and they can be easily set into a career path where they can earn at a very early stage, where they don't have to depend on their parents, because their parents are even they don't even want this, to send their children to school. They'll say, "Come and help me in the brick farm,
Yes.
and come and help collect rocks or stones in the river." So there are so many dimensions to the whole thing, Utpala. But I think government, if they ensure that the school, with whatever limited funds, with whatever limited teachers, and I completely agree with Tamo when he said that, we are having schools like, I see that, let's quote the schools, right? TG, right? Tambasana Girls. You go to the classroom of a class 11 in Tambasana Girls, there'll be 120 pack students over there, right? Similarly, same situation in other government schools. But, every child over there is aspiring to become an academician. But I think we need to tell them that, hey, you don't have to score 90% in class 12, but there are so many other career paths.
Yes.
That you can choose, and the school should be able to provide that platform, provide that support, so that he or she, engineer, IAS officer, and lawyer, there are many careers that a student can choose with scoring just the pass mark. I would say just pass the exam, go do the vocational course you want to do, and then become the next, I will say, who's who in the entrepreneurial society or sports or arts and many other things. So I wish the children of the Manipuri government schools all the very best. And, I wish that the government also listens to this debate, and where they start believing whatever we have, they can bring the change, small change that that is needed for our state, Utpala.
Thank you so much. Very briefly, can you tell us, Mr. Sapam, the new education policy 2020, do you think that's going to bring a lot of changes in the scenario in the education field, as far as whether coaching classes and privatization or commercialization of schools are involved? Do you think that
So I've read the policy briefly, Utpala, but I think, and I will not take a lot of time, but I think every policy is all, as Tamo earlier mentioned, it's all theory, right? It's all in the books, it's all written by somebody in an AC room, right? But when it comes to implementation on the ground, everything, what can be implemented, what cannot be implemented. But to be very frank, I think definitely the policymakers should look at how the private schools are doing at different levels. And to be very frank, I think even at private schools, the student-teacher ratio at an elementary level and middle school is very, very high, is what I know, right? And the school doesn't have enough infrastructure in terms of the right playground and the right other vocation, other infrastructure related to, say, arts and music, right? So every school is kind of focusing on this whole academics, and children are pushed to take up only academics and nothing but academics, and that kind of leaves the student with no option, but he or she has only choice between engineering, medicine, UPSC, IAS, or MPSC, and lawyer, right? I think beyond that, the whole school should be able to show the student the right path, the right career. So I think the policy definitely has to be adopted in whatever way the education system in Manipur is today. And I think definitely if it's implemented in the right spirit, Utpala, I think I'm sure there will be a change in our state.
Thank you so much for your input. This brings us to the end of our open debate. It's been a great, very productive and informative discussion, and let's wait and watch how the education scenario changes. I would like to thank our panelists now. Professor Nabakumar, thank you so much for being with us on the show tonight. Mr. N. Satyajeet, are you with us? I think Mr. N. Satyajeet has some network issues, but thank you so much for being on our show, Mr. N. Satyajeet. And Mr. Sapam Shyamananda, thank you so much for being on our show and for all your wonderful views. To all the three panelists, once again, thank you so much for being on our show tonight. Let's see, let's hope that the National Education Policy 2020 is implemented. It does seem like the perfect education policy. So let's see how much of it is implemented in the time to come. And parents, we need to change our mindsets, and well, we have to have a vision for a better education system. Well, we come to the end of our discussion, open debate for tonight. A big thank you to you, dear viewers, for watching our show. Please do not forget to leave your precious feedback, and do let us know if there are any social issues that you'd like us to cover in our show. Thank you so much. I'm your host Utpala signing off for tonight. See you again next Monday with an exciting topic. Stay safe and have a good night.
Washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items amadi makal khudingmakki home appliances kidamak thoina waningai leitre. Kaisampat Konjeng Hazari Lekai Dalaiba Mezo Hub Impalna ahongbo mamalda item khudingmakki up to 50% discount da offer pizari. Wedding set unalogu matamdasu special oiba discount kaya su thangzari. Interest amatta yaudena 0% EMI loan ni kudong sabasu thangzari. Kudong sabasi mangan biraganu ngasi maklengsin birau Mezo Hub Impal Kaisampat Konjeng Hazari Lekai.